The twin sons of Naxon, 9 hung low and wide, slinging golden fire across the dust-stained city of Valen's edge. Most vendors had already packed up their carts and folded up their awnings, fleeing the heat and the restless winds. Only one cart remained open, a dented silver booth tucked beside a crumbling wall marked with faded murals of long-dead stars. Oren wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his wrist. A single pot of stew simmered behind him, thick with root spice, heat peppers, and soft grain. He didn't sell much these days, just enough to keep the cart fueled and his stomach full. Oren liked it that way. No crowds, no ties, no noise. He'd once lived another life. He didn't talk about it. Not to the few customers he fed, not to the neighbors who nodded politely from a distance. In his old life, he'd worn armor and scars. In this one, he wore a grease-stained apron and a quiet heart. As he rinsed a serving bowl in recycled water, a breeze whispered down the alley behind him. He paused. Something in the air had shifted, just slightly, just enough. The wind wasn't what caught his attention. It was the silence that followed it. A stillness too perfect, too fragile. Like a breath held. He turned slowly, cloth still in hand, eyes narrowing at the shadows behind his cart. Just crates. Old ones, broken. A rusted bin. A scattering of copper foil wrappers. No movement. But he felt it. Oren turned back, opened the pot, stirred the stew. Then, there, a sound. Not the hiss of steam. Not the whir of his cart's fan. A scrape. Metal on metal. His hand tightened around the stirring rod. He reached beneath the counter and quietly slipped a curved bone-handled knife from its sheath. Nothing special. Just a paring blade. He stepped off the cart platform and circled around the back. Behind the third crate, he saw it, no, her. A child. Not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, like a soap film catching starlight. Blue-green and too thin. Her eyes were too large for her face, fully black except for a ring of soft silver light circling the irises. She crouched low, arms around her knees, her body so still she could have been carved from ice. She didn't blink. Neither did he. Oren slowly crouched, lowering the knife to the ground. "You hungry?" he asked, gently, voice rough from the day's heat. No answer. But her gaze flicked to his hands, to the knife, then back to his face. He raised both hands, palms open. "Not here to hurt you. Just cook food, sell food. That's all." The child didn't speak, but her eyes lingered on his face. Something in her expression wasn't fear exactly. It was, waiting. Like she was measuring him. He reached into his apron pocket and pulled out a fresh piece of soft bread, folded and still warm. He placed it on the crate between them. "If you want it, it's yours." He stood, stepped back, and waited. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then, like a ripple breaking the surface of still water, the child darted forward, snatched the bread, and curled back into the shadows. She bit into it with both hands, chewing fast, like someone who had learned to eat before it was taken from her. Oren watched her, heart sinking. This wasn't a lost child from the city. No, she didn't move like one. Didn't look like any of the registered refugees either. She was too quiet, too thin. Too invisible. She was hiding from something. He turned back to his cart and scooped a bowl of stew, added a small hunk of root cake and a strip of citrus pickled leaf. No spice. Not for a child. When he returned to the crate, he didn't try to speak. He just placed the bowl on the ground and walked away. He didn't watch her eat. He gave her dignity. But he heard the sound, small slurps, a faint hum of approval, even a little cough. He smiled quietly and went back to scrubbing dishes. By the time the suns dipped below the far ridge, the alley had cooled, and the last of his stew had been poured into clean bowls sealed for tomorrow. He closed up the cart, locked the lid, and reached for his satchel. That's when he heard it again. Footsteps. Not light ones. He turned sharply. A tall figure stepped from the deeper part of the alley, fluid and precise in motion, dressed in worn traveling leather stitched with strange geometric patterns. The figure was lean, strong, hair shaved on one side, the other braided with silver threads. A curved blade rested against her hip. The woman's skin bore the same glimmer as the child's. But her eyes burned brighter. Sharper. Like they remembered too much. She stopped in front of him. You fed her. He nodded slowly. She looked hungry. She is my daughter. His mouth parted. I didn't know. And yet you fed her. Yeah, he said. I did. She stepped forward. Not threatening. Not quite. Then by the rights of the Azari people, she said, you are her bond keeper now. He blinked. Her what? She was alone. You fed her without demand. You offered safety and warmth. By our law, this completes the sacred gesture. The one who gives becomes protector. Oren took a step back. I was just being decent. I didn't know I was signing up for, whatever this is. Intent is irrelevant. Only action. The child crept from the crate, her mouth stained with stew. She looked up at the woman. Mama, she whispered. The woman's features softened. She bent down and touched the girl's cheek. Vina, she murmured. You are well. Vina nodded. The woman stood and turned to Oren. My name is Nira. I was soul weaver once, before war turned my hands to blades. This child is all that remains of my family. You gave her more than food. You gave her refuge. Now, by our right, I give you mine. Oren held up both hands. Wait. I'm just a guy with a food cart. I live in a box the size of a closet. I don't even have an extra blanket. Nira stepped closer. Her voice dropped lower. Then we will share the floor. This is crazy, he muttered. What, you just, belong to me now. Not yours. With you. Until the bond is honored, balanced, or broken. He looked down at Vina, who watched him quietly, still chewing the last bite of her bread. He sighed. Deeply. Fine. You can stay. Just, don't stab me in my sleep. Nira tilted her head. That would violate the right. Great, Oren muttered. Another right. Later that night, inside his small shelter behind the cart, Oren lay on his floor mat, staring at the ceiling. The glow lamp hummed softly overhead. Vina slept, curled into a thick blanket on the far side. Nira sat by the door, cross-legged, blade across her knees, eyes open. Do you ever sleep? He asked. Not when she is near strangers. He rolled onto his side. You know, this wasn't supposed to be my life. What was? Quiet. Simple. No attachments. No war. Nira looked over at him. And yet you fed her. Yeah, he admitted, voice low. I did. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, in our world, that is the beginning of every story worth remembering. Vina stirred in her sleep and mumbled something in her own language. Nira rose silently, walked over, and pulled the blanket higher around her shoulders. Oren watched her. There was a grace to her movements. Not the cold efficiency of a soldier, but the practiced care of someone who had loved deeply, once. What happened to her father? Oren asked. Nira looked over her shoulder. Taken by mercenaries. He was a navigator. Our ship was targeted after a failed rebellion on Corin's fall. So you ran? No, we survived. Barely. Oren sat up. And now you're both stuck here. With me. You are not a prison, she said. You are a doorway. One we chose to walk through. Vina murmured again. Mira leaned down and brushed the child's cheek with her fingers. She sang something, soft, rhythmic, like falling leaves. Oren closed his eyes and listened. When the melody ended, Mira turned to him. You gave her a full belly, she said, but you also gave her a night without fear. She hasn't had one in many moons. Oren didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because suddenly, without planning it, without choosing it, he cared. Not just about Vina. But about the fierce, tired woman with starlight in her blood. The morning came soft and slow. A light breeze passed through the slats in Oren's shelter wall, bringing with it the distant scent of redleaf pollen and warming sand. The twin suns hadn't risen fully yet, but the first rays were gold across the concrete floor. Mira had not moved from where she sat the night before. Her blade still lay across her lap. Her eyes had stayed open until the last breath of moonlight had gone. She didn't trust this place. She didn't trust humans. Not yet. But she was watching. And what she saw puzzled her. The man, Oren, was still asleep on a threadbare mat. He hadn't tried to run. Hadn't asked her to leave. Hadn't stared at her with the cold curiosity most humans gave her people. He had simply offered food. Warmth. Then space. A simple kindness. And that was what disturbed her most. Kindness, where she came from, had always had a cost. Beneath the blanket, Vina stirred. The little girl opened her eyes slowly, blinking at the pale light. She sat up and yawned, stretching her thin arms high above her head. Her eyes sparkled just a little when they met her mother's. He's still here, Vina whispered. Yes, Mira said, her voice low. Can we stay? Mira didn't answer right away. She glanced toward Oren. His chest rose and fell steadily, peacefully. She nodded once. For now. Vina crawled toward her and rested her head on Mira's thigh. He smells like stew and metal, she said, then giggled. Mira allowed herself a small smile. She hadn't heard that sound, her daughter laughing, in so long it felt like music. A knock came at the door. Both of them froze. Mira's hand went to her blade instantly. Vina ducked behind a storage crate, her breath shallow. But the knock came again, soft, patient. Not patrol. Not bounty hunter. Just a rhythm. Oren grumbled something into his pillow, then rolled up slowly, sitting up with a groan. That's the neighbor, he mumbled, rubbing his face. Old man with bad ears and stronger teeth and sense. He stood, stretched, and ambled over to the door. Before opening it, he glanced over his shoulder. You okay? Mira didn't move, but she nodded. He opened the door and, as expected, there stood an old man with a crooked back, one working eye, and a tiny mug that smelled like boiled seeds and burnt sugar. You forget your ration ticket again, kid? Probably, Oren muttered. Still half asleep. You smell like a cooking pit. Good morning to you. He passed the mug into Oren's hands and shuffled away. When the door shut, silence returned. Oren took a sip of the tea, made a face, then walked over to the makeshift table and sat down. Good morning to you too, he said, glancing at Mira. She tilted her head. What is that? Something between battery acid and caffeine, he said. He brews it every week. Thinks it keeps his blood moving. Vina peeked up from behind the crate. Can I try? Mira raised an eyebrow. You don't even know what it is. That never stopped you, Oren muttered, sliding the mug toward her. Vina took a tiny sip. Her nose wrinkled. It tastes like fire. Yep, Oren said. Welcome to Naxxon. The child laughed again. This time, louder. Mira looked between them. Something was growing here. Not a bond of law, but something older. She sat across from Oren, her movements quiet. You don't ask questions, she said. I've got enough of my own, he replied. Most humans would have turned us in by now. I'm not most. No, she said, watching him. You're not. For a few moments, the room was quiet again. Outside, a sandcrawler hummed past on the road, heading toward the mining fields. You used to fight, she said. He looked up sharply. How do you know? Your eyes. They move before your hands do. Only soldiers learn that. Oren set the mug down. Yeah. I fought. Which war? Does it matter? Only if you carry it still. He hesitated. Then, I left before it ended. Couldn't finish what I started. Lost too many. So did I. They looked at each other. In that silence was understanding. Not words. Not pity. Just two souls worn down in the same way. Vina climbed into her mother's lap and looked between them. Did you both lose homes? Yes, Nira said softly. Did you both lose names? Maybe, Oren answered. Vina leaned against her mother and whispered, then maybe we can make new ones. Nira closed her eyes for a moment. It was a foolish dream. But oh, how she wanted it to be real. Over the next few days, the strange rhythm of their lives found a beat. Oren would open the food cart in the mornings and serve workers and scavengers at the city's edge. Nira would linger nearby in the shade, watching. Not hiding, just observing. Her presence made some uneasy, but no one asked questions. Vina helped wash bowls. She liked the warmth of the water and the way Oren taught her how to stack them so they dried faster. They didn't talk about the bond. Not aloud. But it was there in every bowl of stew handed without price. In every word said gently. In the way Nira started to leave her blade by the door at night. One evening, as the twin suns touched the rim of the desert horizon, Oren and Nira sat together on the roof of the shelter. Vina was inside, sketching stars on the floor with a charcoal nub. Oren passed Nira a cup of warm broth. No spice, he said. Figured you'd like it plain. How do you know what I like? I don't, he said. But I want to. She accepted the cup with both hands. A gesture of respect in her culture. They drank in silence. You've been quieter lately, he said. Watching, she replied. Me. Us. Oren leaned back against the roof's edge. And what have you seen? She looked at him. Her voice, when it came, was softer than usual. You are not what I expected. Disappointed? No, she said. Worried. He frowned. About what? That I might want to stay. The wind passed gently between them. Why does that worry you? Because staying means risking everything again. He looked over at her. Her eyes were turned to the stars. Then let me say this, he whispered. I didn't feed your daughter to gain you. I didn't shelter her to win something. I did it because no one else did. Because she was hungry, and I had food. Because she was scared, and I had warmth. Nira turned to him. And now? Now, he paused. I want more than that. Not by law. Not by bond. By choice. Her face didn't change. But her hand drifted, slowly, until it rested on his. A light touch. A beginning. Later that night, as Vina slept soundly between layers of blankets and stuffed scraps shaped like animals, Nira knelt beside Oren's worktable. She reached into her coat and pulled out a slender coil of glowing silk thread. What's that? Oren asked, watching her. This is called soul thread. It is given only once. When a bond is chosen, not forced. He stood. Approached her slowly. You said the right already chose me. Yes, she said. But this is me choosing you. She wrapped the thread around his wrist, winding it 3 times. When she tied it off, it pulsed, soft gold. And then dissolved into his skin. It's gone, he said. No, she whispered. Now it's part of you. They stood close in the soft blue glow of the night lamp. Thank you, he said. Neera looked up at him. Don't thank me, she said. Then, after a breath, she added, just stay. But not far away, behind a shattered broadcast tower, a drone hovered in silence, its sensors trained on the roof of Oren's shelter. A figure stood in the shadows, watching the feed. A soft grin played across their scarred lips. There you are, they whispered. The bond breaker and her new flame. They turned, sending the footage to a ship waiting above the stratosphere. Then vanished into the dark. The night wind sang through the alleys of Valen's Edge. Soft and cold. Restless. Beneath the rusted solar panels of Oren's shelter, 3 breaths moved in harmony, light, steady, close. It had been nearly a week since Neera and Vina had entered his life, and something strange had happened in that short time. The silence in his home had changed. It was no longer empty. It was peaceful. Vina no longer whimpered in her sleep. She no longer curled into herself like a leaf folding against the cold. Instead, she sprawled across a woven blanket with her arms open and her face soft, like she belonged in the world again. And maybe, Oren thought, she finally did. He sat on the floor beside her, watching her sleep. Neera knelt nearby, cleaning her blade with a cloth she carried from her homeworld. Her movements were slow, methodical. She didn't look up when she spoke. You watch her like she's made of glass. I used to think she was, Oren said. But she's stronger than we are, isn't she? Neera nodded. She has to be. Her blood is not simple. You've never said, he said quietly. What exactly is she? Neera paused. Looked down at the blade. Then at him. Vina's father wasn't just a navigator. He was an heir. The last living descendant of the bloodline of Marn. Oren frowned. That name means nothing to me. To most, it shouldn't, she said. But to those who hunt her, it means war. She placed the cloth down. The Marn line controlled the crystal gates before the collapse. They had influence over the psionic currents in warp stream travel. But when the gates failed, and the outer worlds went dark, the family disappeared. Until Vina, Oren said. Until her, Neera confirmed. So she's not just someone's child. She's a key. A symbol, Neera said. To some, hope. To others, a threat. Vina stirred. They both went silent. But the child only mumbled something in her native tongue and turned over, her cheek pressing against the warmth of a woven satchel stuffed like a pillow. Oren sighed and leaned back. So how long do we have until they come looking? Neera's answer was quiet. They're already here. The next day began like the others. Oren opened his cart near the eastern wall, serving hot stew to tired workers and wandering traders. Vina sat beside the cart with a chipped cup of tea, doodling stars on a piece of packing paper. Neera leaned against the alley wall nearby, her face mostly hidden under a tattered scarf. People had grown used to seeing them. Or at least, they didn't ask anymore. And that, Neera had told him, was always when danger came. When they stopped staring. And started watching. They were halfway through cleaning up when Vina dropped the cup. It hit the ground and shattered. Oren turned quickly. Vina. She didn't answer. Her eyes had gone wide, glassy and dark. Her skin shimmered faintly, veins glowing with a faint silver-red hue. Her fingers trembled. Vina, he rushed to her side. She didn't blink. She pointed slowly down the alley. They're here. Before Oren could move, Neera was already there. She pulled Vina behind her, eyes locked on the far end of the alley. 3 figures emerged. Armored. Black and gold. Cloaks hanging from their shoulders like smoke. The insignia on their chest plates glowed, a red thong wrapped around a sun. Mercenaries. Bounty hunters. Venasai of Marn, the tallest one spoke. His voice came through a vocoder, sharp, unnatural. You are claimed by the Airwatch under Clause 19. Surrender the child. Nira stepped forward, drawing her blade. She is not yours to take. Wrong, the voice said. She is everyone's. Oren reached down and grabbed his cutting rod from the stew cart. It wasn't a weapon, not truly, but it would do. You come near her, he said, stepping beside Nira, and you'll leave with less than you arrived with. The mercenary laughed. Oh, human. Still playing protector. He raised a hand. The second figure moved. Fast. But Nira was faster. Her blade flashed in a wide arc, meeting the attacker's staff with a crash of metal and sparks. She spun, kicked, disarmed him in 2 fluid movements. He collapsed in the dust. The third one opened fire. But Vina screamed. Not loud, but deep. A pulse burst from her chest, an invisible wave of heat and color. The ground trembled. The remaining attackers were thrown backward, slammed into the alley walls with bone-shaking force. Then silence. Vina stood trembling, eyes glowing like firelight. Her hands were stretched outward, palms open. Oren ran to her. Vina. Hey. It's okay. It's over. She dropped to her knees. I didn't want to hurt. You didn't, he whispered, wrapping his arms around her. You protected us. That's all. Nira wiped her blade clean on the edge of her coat. We have to go, she said. Now. They didn't go back to the shelter. They ran. Through the twisted outskirts of Valen's Edge, through the rust fields and abandoned monorails, through dunes blown into spirals by wind and time. Nira led the way. Oren carried Vina when her legs gave out. They stopped only when the twin suns touched the horizon, casting long shadows over the ruins of an ancient station, half buried in sand, forgotten by time. Nira turned to them. We rest here, she said. Vina clung to Oren's shirt, her eyes still dim. He knelt beside her. How are you feeling? Tired. You did something big back there. I didn't mean to. I know, he said, brushing her hair back gently. But you saved us. Vina leaned into his chest. Are you mad? No, he said. I'm proud. Nira crouched beside them. She used bloodlight, she said. I didn't know she'd awakened. What is it? Oren asked. A genetic echo, she said. Rare. Dangerous. It means her bloodline is active. It means the old powers haven't faded. And now everyone will come, Oren murmured. Yes. They built a small fire from old station wires and resin blocks. Vina fell asleep wrapped in Oren's coat, head in Nira's lap. He sat beside them. Watching the flames dance in her silver eyes. You've given everything, he said. Your name. Your home. Your safety. You gave us more, she said. Choice. He looked at her. Truly looked. Nira, he said softly. I love you. She closed her eyes. I know. She touched his cheek. And kissed him. Not with urgency. With understanding. With acceptance. With home. When they pulled apart, she whispered, You love her too. More than I expected, he said. She called me Sola. What does that mean? Warm one, Nira said. I don't know if I deserve that. No one ever does. They stayed in the ruins 2 days. On the third morning, a beacon sounded on the old platform. Someone was close. Too close. They packed quickly. As they left, Vina turned back toward the broken gates. This place feels like somewhere I've been in a dream. You may have, Nira said. Vina's eyes flickered gold. And for a moment, Oren saw something he hadn't before. Destiny. Not written in stars, but in blood and choice. They didn't return to Valen's edge. They would never return. But what they carried with them now was stronger than law, stronger than fear. They had each other. And for the first time since she fled her people's war, Nira felt no need to run. She had chosen this path. Not because of an ancient right. But because she had fallen in love. With a quiet man who gave food without asking. With a child who carried a broken bloodline in her bones. With the hope of something new. Something better. And now, across the far horizon, they saw the glow of an old Azari temple. Not guarded. Not claimed. Just waiting. And somewhere far above them, aboard a ship marked with gold and iron, a voice whispered into a comlink. Target identified. Bloodline confirmed. Move in. The stars above were quiet. But trouble was coming. And love would be tested. The temple of the shattered moon rose like a wound from the earth. Cracked stone towers leaned into the red horizon, their roots sunk deep into ancient desert. The outer wall had half collapsed, its spires blackened by war. Vines now grew in the fractured places. Winds howled through broken gates, carrying the low whisper of forgotten oaths. This was where the old Azari came to mourn. And this was where Nira had once been sworn. She stood still at the base of the temple steps, Vina beside her, Oren just behind. They had walked for 3 days to reach this place. Sleeping beneath rusted bridges. Eating ration packs. Holding on to silence. Because what waited here would not be gentle. You sure about this? Oren asked quietly. Nira didn't speak at first. Then, with a breath, she said, this temple holds the bloodstone. The what? A shard from the first Azari Ark. It remembers bonds. Carries echoes. If we mark our joining here, it becomes forever. Vina looked up, her small voice a question. You're really choosing each other now? Nira knelt beside her daughter. Yes. Freely. Vina's dark eyes blinked slowly. Even if it's dangerous. Nira touched her cheek. Especially then. Oren watched them, his heart rising and aching all at once. What do I have to do? He asked. Nira stood. Turned to face him. Stand with me. That's all. They stepped through the gates together. Inside, the temple smelled of ash and cool stone. The bloodstone sat in the center, a crystalline heart hovering just above the altar, faintly pulsing with golden red light. Runes drifted across its surface like slow-moving stars. Vina sat on a carved bench to one side, legs tucked under her, watching closely. Nira and Oren stood beneath the stone. Your people don't even believe in this, she said. Doesn't matter, he replied. You do. She looked at him. And then she pulled from her cloak a thin, sharp pendant, Azari metal, forged from memory. She turned it in her fingers, then pressed it into his palm. This is my memory forge. The last thing I carry from my soul weaver days. I shouldn't take that. You already carry more, she said softly. He wrapped his fingers around it. Then stepped forward and placed the pendant beneath the bloodstone. Nira did the same, placing a small carved token of bone and silver, the charm Vina had worn around her neck since she was born. The stone brightened. Runes flickered. 2 symbols emerged from the surface, one for each of them. And then the space between them lit up. Joined. This is the final bond, Nira whispered. If we speak the right here, the bond becomes true. Permanent. Oren looked at her. Then say it. Nira's voice trembled, not with fear, but with something older. I was born of light, broken by flame. I was given no choice. No shelter. But I found you. And you gave both. She placed her hand against his chest. I choose you, with voice and blade. With bone and breath. I am yours. Not owned. Not owed. Chosen. He swallowed. Felt his throat tighten. He took her hand. And spoke softly. I was a weapon, then a shadow. I walked empty roads. Ran from silence. But I found you. And you changed that. He leaned his forehead to hers. I choose you, with hands unarmed. With heart uncovered. Not out of fate. Not out of law. Out of love. The bloodstone pulsed bright. A beam of soft red light extended from it, wrapping around them like a glowing ribbon. Not binding, blessing. Vina clapped softly. It's real now. Nira smiled gently. Yes, it is. Oren looked down at her. We really just married in an alien ruin, didn't we? You're the one who wanted to do it properly. I didn't want to regret it, he said. I don't. They kissed. Not for tradition. Not for ceremony. But because love doesn't wait. And above them, the bloodstone whispered, complete. They stayed one night in the temple. Vina curled into Oren's side as the fire flickered low. Nira sat across from them, sharpening her blade out of habit. But her eyes weren't on the steel. They were on him. You meant it, she said. He nodded. Every word. Even now that you know what's coming. He looked down at Vina, then back to Nira. Especially now. The next morning came with fire. They didn't hear the ship until it was too close. A low hum. The sharp hiss of atmosphere splitting open. A black craft with Fong symbols burned into the hull landed just outside the temple gates. Nira stood instantly, blade drawn. Oren grabbed Vina and backed into the inner sanctum. From the shadows, a tall figure stepped through the broken arch. Not armor. Robes. But not Azari. A bounty hunter. Tall. Covered in dark cloth. Half his face metal. A voice like broken speakers. So. This is where you ran. Nira said nothing. You broke the pact, the hunter said. You bonded with an outsider. You hid the blood child. You insulted both your line and theirs. I protected my family, Nira growled. You destroyed legacy, he hissed. Vina peeked out from behind Oren. You don't get to decide our future, Oren said. Oh, the hunter replied. But I already have. He raised his arm. A bolt of blue energy struck Nira in the side, she dropped, stunned. No, Oren shouted, rushing toward her. The hunter stepped forward. Give me the child. And you live. Vina shook her head. No. Vina, Oren said, don't. But the girl stepped into the open. Eyes burning gold. Hands glowing. And the stone above them, the bloodstone, answered. With a thunderous hum, light burst from Vina's palms and struck the altar. The crystal shattered, and the raw force rushed into her chest like a tide. She screamed. The hunter raised a shield. But it wasn't enough. Vina's voice wasn't just her own anymore, it was lineage speaking. You do not choose me. She unleashed a final pulse of power. The hunter was thrown backward, through stone, through air. He vanished into the desert with a smoking crater in his place. Silence returned. Nira gasped, sitting up. Oren ran to her. You're okay, he said, holding her. Vina fell to her knees. He caught her. You did it, he whispered. I didn't want to hurt anyone, she said. You didn't, Neera said softly, brushing her hair back. You protected. Like your father did. Veena looked at them both. Are we still a family? Oren smiled, eyes misting. Now more than ever. They buried the pendant pieces in the ruins. Left nothing behind. But when they walked out into the morning light, they carried something no bounty hunter could take. Promise. And love chosen in ruin.